So SRPE is not something that needs to dominate your life. It's not something that needs to make you miserable every night. It is something that you actually can manage, and I believe you can get to the point where you don't even have it anymore in your life. Now, there's 4 pillars to the strategy that you need to employ in order to get this out of your life. Those pillars are going to be raise serotonin, lower histamine, support the liver, and heal the gut. Let me go through each one of them one at a time and very briefly give you some details to help you understand this. First of all, raise serotonin. There was an important study done that showed how critical serotonin levels are in order to even achieve an erection, how necessary that is, but also how when you raise serotonin levels, you have less REM sleep, which means you have more deep sleep. Increasing serotonin decreases the amount of REM sleep, and that's going to increase the more restful, deeper sleep that you have. And since REM is the stage at which SRPE episodes happen, it means that it is a lot less episodes when you have more serotonin. And it also reduces nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is what is needed in order to even have an erection. So there's all kinds of good things that happen if you're struggling with SRPE if you are raising serotonin levels. Primary ways to do this are going to be through 5-HTP and St. John's wort, and I recommend using Ben Lynch's pulse method to go at a slow pace in order to make sure you're not having any weird side effects, anything wrong, and it usually takes about 30 days to raise your serotonin levels. In fact, I think it is very possible for a lot of men that SRPE is caused primarily by a serotonin deficiency. And by the way, that is really the case if you find your libido is just crazy out of control. There's a good strong chance you're dealing with a serotonin deficiency. The second pillar is to lower your histamine levels. Histamine is a vasodilator. There's another study done that I'm going to show you briefly on the screen that demonstrates how absolutely critical histamine is to even getting an erection in the first place. Now, it's not just that histamine functions as a vasodilator, and remember, a vasodilator is something that widens blood vessels. That is how an erection happens in the first place. You get more blood flow. You get dilation of the blood vessels. Histamine is a vasodilator. I say that with some emphasis because I'm kind of surprised that nobody talks about the role that histamine might have in SRPE. But that's not the only role. It has a role as a neurotransmitter because there's specific receptors in the brain that are activated by histamine, and they then lead to arousal. And once that occurs, signals from the brain trigger the release of nitric oxide, and that goes into the penile blood vessels, and that leads to increased blood flow. So the second pillar is going to be lower histamine. If there's just 2 things that you focus on, it's going to be raise serotonin and lower histamine. If you accomplish those 2 things, you will almost certainly notice an improvement in your symptoms if they are related to histamine levels. And I think a lot of the time that they are. The third pillar is going to be support the liver. Now, my first breakthrough in dealing with this and getting to a place where I don't feel like it's destroying my life came from taking a supplement called MCS2 from Biotics Research that has things like milk thistle and methionine and other things while I was increasing my serotonin through 5-HTP. And it was only afterwards I was starting to try to understand, well, what happened? Why is this getting so much better? A little bit of theory to help you understand the role of the liver in this whole operation. Brian Lum at Functional Healthcare Institute, he says something very fascinating on his webpage. He says, pathogens, fungus, bad bacteria, and viruses create waste in the body. These waste products become their own type of toxin that the body often responds to with histamine and inflammation. Every person I have treated with histamine intolerance has had an underlying liver problem. Their livers were so backed up from years of poor diet, stored stress, chemicals, environmental chemicals, toxic heavy metals, stored viruses and bacteria, and accumulation of toxic wastes. Once we cleaned up their liver by supporting the body's detoxification processes, eliminating hidden infections stored in the liver, and supplying the liver with the correct nutrients at the right time, these patients fully recovered. you cannot overemphasize the importance of supporting your liver. So if you don't have the money to pay for MCS2, find something else that has milk thistle, burdock, and preferably methionine in it, because those all just have an incredible way of supporting the liver in its detoxification processes. The last pillar is going to be to heal the gut. There's all kinds of things you can do for this, but one reason you need to heal the gut is because it's so often that you have bad bacteria, you have some kinds of parasites, you have something that's invading and it is producing endotoxins that's then leading to more and more histamine. So you have to heal the gut. You've got to get the bad bacteria out and replace it with good bacteria and reduce inflammation in the gut. The primary ways to do this are going to be, first of all, through intermittent fasting, eating less food, eating less frequently, skipping breakfast, skipping lunch, skipping something so you are eating less food and you're not feeding those bad bacteria. You also want to avoid carbs. You want to avoid sugar. I think you should really consider leaving off gluten. Gluten is extremely inflammatory. Also, besides intermittent fasting, practice just fasting in general. Practice going maybe once a week, a day without food for 24 hours. That means you have dinner the night before, you don't eat at all until dinner the following day. Stop snacking and consider the carnivore diet. The carnivore diet is extraordinarily anti-inflammatory. If you're just eating meat, you're not eating any of the carbs, you're not eating any of the sugars, you're not eating any of the grains, anything that's going to be feeding this bad bacteria that's causing you so many problems. It is not forever. Virtually none of the things that I'm saying are forever. They're for a season to get your body back on track. It might be 3 months, it might be 6 months, it might be a year, but you should start to notice improvement within, I would say, 30 days, if not 60 days at most. That is, if histamine is the main cause of your SRPE. And again, I'm not saying that that is the only cause of it. Now, this might be a whole lot. This might seem overwhelming. If you want somebody to walk through this process with you and to give you guidance, I do offer one-on-one coaching, and you can find that on my website, srpe-relief.com. And if you found this information at all to be helpful, I would ask you to please like this video so that other men could find it in their algorithm when they are searching for a solution to this problem. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.